Open any book, and you expect to understand something. Even if it's in a language you don't speak, you recognize it as language. The shapes of letters seem familiar. The structure of sentences makes sense. But there's a book that sits in Yale University's Beinecke library that refuses to cooperate with any reader who has tried to decode it for over a century. The Voynich Manuscript contains 240 pages of handwritten text in an unknown script. It features illustrations of unidentified plants, strange astronomical diagrams, and what appear to be naked women bathing in elaborate plumbing systems. Since its discovery in 1912, linguists, cryptographers, and codebreakers, including William Friedman, who broke Japan's purple cipher during World War II, have tried and failed to read a single word. After a century of the world's best minds attempting to crack it, the manuscript remains completely unreadable. The manuscript's modern story begins with Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish book dealer who purchased it from Villa Mondragone, a Jesuit library near Rome, in 1912. Voynich believed he had acquired something extraordinary, and he was right, though not perhaps in the way he hoped. He spent years trying to connect the manuscript to Roger Bacon, the 13th century philosopher, believing this would prove its importance. But carbon-14 dating conducted in 2009 told a different story. The manuscript's parchment dates to between 1404 and 1438, ruling out Bacon entirely and placing its creation in the early 15th century, likely somewhere in Central Europe during the height of the medieval manuscript tradition. The manuscript itself defies easy description, but we should try. Each page is covered in flowing script that looks handwritten by someone confident. The letters curve and connect smoothly, as if the writer knew exactly what they meant. The ink has faded to a soft brown, the parchment yellowed but intact. Margins are clean, word spacing is consistent. This was no hasty scribble, it was crafted with care. Scholars call this script Voynichese. The text flows left to right, uses clear word boundaries, and follows consistent rules, whatever those rules might be. Statistical analysis shows the text isn't random. It has structural patterns consistent with natural language. Words repeat with frequencies similar to real linguistic systems. But no one has identified what language, if any, underlies the script. The illustrations are equally baffling. The botanical section depicts 113 plants, but most don't match any known species. Some researchers argue they're stylized representations of real plants. Others suggest composite inventions. The astronomical section shows zodiac symbols and circular diagrams, but with unfamiliar elements. The so-called biological section shows groups of women in pools connected by elaborate tubes, imagery that has no clear parallel in medieval art. So what is it? The theories fall into roughly 3 categories. First, it's an encoded text in a known language. For decades, cryptographers assumed the manuscript was simply a cipher. Substitute the symbols for real letters, apply the right key, and it would yield ordinary Latin, Italian, or German. This assumption drove military codebreakers during both world wars. But here's the problem. No cipher solution has ever been verified. Proposed solutions have claimed to reveal everything from Ukrainian to Hebrew to Latin, but none hold up to scrutiny. Each solution requires different, often arbitrary rules for different sections. Second, it's a constructed language. Maybe the manuscript isn't encoded at all. Maybe someone invented an entirely new writing system for an entirely new language. This would explain why no cipher works. But invented languages in the medieval period typically have known creators and contexts. Think of Hildegard of Bingen's Lingua Ignota from the 12th century. The Voynich shows no evidence of a known author or purpose for such invention. Third, and this is controversial, it's a hoax. The manuscript might be meaningless. An elaborate construction designed to seem like a language without containing any actual information. Some statistical analyses have found that Voynichese is structurally simpler than natural languages. too simple perhaps for genuine content. Yet other analyses find complexity that would be remarkably sophisticated for a medieval forgery. What makes this mystery persist isn't lack of trying, it's lack of comparable evidence. We have one manuscript, in one script, in one unknown language, with no Rosetta Stone to provide translation. The Egyptian hieroglyphics were unreadable until the Rosetta Stone provided parallel texts in Greek. Linear B remained a mystery until it was connected to ancient Greek. The Voynich has no parallel text, no bilingual document, no external reference that might crack the code. Consider what this reveals about medieval knowledge culture. Books were rare and expensive. Parchment required months of labor to produce. Animal skins scraped, stretched, dried, and cut. No one created 240 pages of illustrated manuscript without purpose. Whatever the Voynich is, someone invested extraordinary resources in making it. Some scholars now believe the manuscript may be a private journal in a personal shorthand, perhaps astronomical observations or herbal remedies recorded in an idiosyncratic system that died with its creator. Others suggest it's an alchemical text, deliberately obscured to protect dangerous knowledge from the uninitiated. Like the Dyatlov Pass incident we examined previously, the Voynich shows how information gaps fuel speculation, and how the desire for answers can outpace the evidence. If that approach to historical mysteries appeals to you, subscribe to continue exploring unsolved history with careful analysis rather than sensationalism. The pattern of failed solutions reveals something instructive about the Voynich itself. In 2014, a team of Brazilian computer scientists applied pattern analysis algorithms to the Voynich text and concluded it shares statistical properties with known languages. Specifically, they suggested, with medieval Hebrew. But their proposed translation? Nonsense phrases that other linguists rejected. The patterns might be real, without the meaning being recoverable. In 2019, a researcher claimed to have decoded the manuscript as Latin abbreviations in a Proto-Romance dialect, translating it as a medical guide for women's health. His solution was also widely disputed, with critics noting that his reading required extraordinary liberties with the text. Every few years, someone announces a solution. Every solution is then challenged by other scholars who find inconsistencies. The manuscript remains, after each announcement, exactly as mysterious as before. The Voynich has become a test case for confirmation bias. Every theory finds some supporting evidence, because 240 pages of unknown text can seem to support almost anything. When we want something to be true, when we've invested years in a theory, we can convince ourselves we've found patterns that aren't there. What do we actually know for certain? The parchment is medieval. The ink is consistent with the period. The style of illustration matches early 15th century manuscripts from Central Europe. Someone, or multiple someones, created this book with considerable skill and effort. And for over 600 years, its message has remained locked. The Voynich sits today in a climate-controlled vault at Yale, its pages too fragile for regular handling. Digital scans have made it accessible to anyone with internet access. Thousands of amateur cryptographers have attempted solutions. None have succeeded. Some mysteries resist us not because the answer is hidden, but because the answer may be gone, lost with the person who created it, taking their private language to a grave we'll never find. And perhaps that's acceptable. The investigation itself has produced genuine knowledge about medieval book production, the limits of statistical decryption, and the cognitive patterns that make us see meaning where none exists. The most mysterious artifact in history sits in plain sight, available to anyone who wants to try. It simply refuses to speak.